The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Red and gold on the edge of the sky, feel the rumble, hear the battle cry. Out in Ames where the storms ignite, we don't back down, we rise and fight. Jack Trice's name, yeah, it echoes strong. A story of honor still marches on. Through the rain, through the pain, through the fire we roar, 'cause we were built to thrive in the eye of the storm. Feel the ground shake, hear the crowd roar. Cyclone power, can't take no more. Legends rise, this is our norm. We stand tall in the sigh of the storm. There's a cyclone blowing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Milton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. Feel the magic, you can't.
All right, welcome back to the Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are live from the AKC Marketing Studio with Andrew Downs, and sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company out of Osceola, Iowa, and the Iowa Beef Steakhouse, and of course, styled by JJ Boutique. I'm Dave Larson, here with my Storm Team partner and Cyclone great, the legend Marcus Pfizer. Good evening, Marcus. How are you?
Feeling good today, boy.
Yeah, Selection
Feeling
Sunday.
good today.
It's like
Yeah, they
a
had me
Christmas feel to
Well,
it, doesn't it?
Well, they always have me kind of nervous with, how they love to do the Cyclones, even though when we play well throughout the season, just as well as anybody else, they always try to find a reason to knock us down a seed lower than maybe. But, I'm satisfied with today's, feeding. So let's get this thing rolling.
All right. Well, Brent is unable to join us because he is celebrating his birthday.
Cumpleaños.
Yeah. Of all places, I think he's in Kansas City, where I spent my Friday night, unfortunately. So I went down to Power and Light District, and I was texting you guys some pictures and videos and had a blast. So I went down there with my college-aged, recently graduated son, and thinking, hey, if we can get some cheap tickets, let's go ahead and try to get in. So he made the trek down there. Tickets, instead of going down, went up in price. So we ended up, I've never really watched the tournament games from Power and Light. I tell you what, I may never want to go back into T-Mobile. We had a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot like the ups and downs of a basketball game as a fan in the stadium. The exact same thing was happening outside at Power and Light. It was just a ton of fun. In fact, I think Chris, by the way, we have an actual producer on tonight rather than me trying to finagle with the video, but Chris.
Yeah, I was getting tired of the sponsors not being shown correctly, so I thought maybe I'd come on and retrain Dave on how to run this show.
How to push one button.
How to push one button. That's right.
More than one button. Come on.
Now. Listen,
so
the pay sucks, so I get
it. So we had just an absolute ton of fun, and I did shot some videos and pictures, but this one in particular is the last segment of the game.
10 to shoot. Buchanan looking for somebody to give it to. Finds Lipsy. 5 to shoot.
Here's the clip of a few moments later.
That's coming up, my friend.
I don't want to see it.
It's not just the first shot, it's the offensive rebound. Bradley trying to do it himself. He does! He hit it!
It got awfully quiet, awfully fast, but it was a lot like being in the arena. We had so much fun outside of that last shot. Lipsy with that huge three. You know, it wasn't that long ago with Taman Lipsy as a freshman. You couldn't beg him to shoot it. You couldn't pay him enough to shoot it from the outside. And for him to step up like that in the closing seconds of the shot clock to nail that three from deep three, make it, and for Iowa State to come down, just a huge ballsy shot. I really like this team. I love Momcilovic at the end of the first half with the 9 points in succession, aka Reggie Miller. Absolutely phenomenal game. It proved that the Cyclones can compete against a really excellent team in Arizona.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier when I was driving around, like, this is literally of all of the sports the most fun time of the year. I mean, it is, and it's just beginning. You can see during the conference tournament, that's when, even like teams like Ole Miss, they came out of nowhere and they were about to make, history as well. So when you get into the conference tournament, a lot of teams really, really gear up. Some of the top seeds always, come out with the win, which, the selection committee always hope that's the case. But once March Madness starts, it's just a phenomenal time. My wife was telling me, she was talking about March 1st. March Madness is here. I said, no, it's not quite here yet. We got a couple of weeks. It'll be here once it ramps up. It's so many games that's going on. Like, you cannot. I haven't watched the NBA game in so many days because it's like, the excitement from college basketball. That time is here, and I'm looking forward to these big games and the upsets and like, what the hell did that come from? Those type games.
So we had a lot of fun, and then unfortunately, as we were pulling away, we got on the interstate and got into a hit and run accident. We were not the runners; we were the hitters this time. A U-Haul sideswiped us as we were on the interstate and killed our tire, killed our car. It was a long Friday night for us. Friday the 13th is one date that we will never forget. So got home late yesterday, kind of a long weekend. For those that are watching and listening, tonight is our first attempt at a call-in show, and I think this is going to be a fun one considering it is Selection Sunday. And we encourage everyone to join us by calling in at 515-442-0703. Again, 515-442-0703. Marcus and I are going in a little bit blind, but Chris is on the back end receiving those phone calls. Love to have you join us. We hope to have Hallice Cooke on. So Hallice was a former Cyclone that was a part of Fred Hoiberg's last Sweet 16 team. We hope to have him coming on here shortly. Marcus, question for you as we wait for Hallice to hopefully join us shortly. But so Selection Sunday, the teams are pulled together, and we see it on CBS every year where the teams are in the gym or someplace to sort of celebrate. They've got the camera on them. Back in the day, I remember that they would have cameras in, and the teams that would not get selected would still have a camera, which had to been immensely disappointing. But what was that like for you as an athlete, knowing that your team was likely going to be called? In your case, that junior season that went 32-5, right. It was obvious you're going to get called because you're the Big 12 regular season champs and the Big 12 conference tournament champs, regardless of what I forgot in the past. But so I apologize on that. But what's that like for you as a player on Selection Sunday?
Well, it's kind of, you have to ask other guys what it was like for them, but for me, I just remember nothing but being focused on who we're going to play next. I've said before on the pod that, I didn't know who we were going to play next. We just prepared for that team that, that was up. If it was Texas, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Kansas, we prepared for that team. And then once we got past that, that team focused on the next. And so for me sitting I think we were still down in Kansas City in the little conference room wherever we eat at. I'm just really still having that feeling about, okay, who's the next player team we're going to play. What next program? I wasn't concerned about the seedings. I wasn't concerned about where we're going to be playing at. I know a lot of fans were saying, we hope we get a draw that's close to home. I was just ready to play who was going to be next, and I was just focusing on that. Not really a lot of excitement. My focus was so I was so focused on playing that it wasn't even a lot of excitement for me at all. It wasn't until it was over for us that I really tried to sit back and reflect on the season and everything that went on. But man, I was focused.
As a team, then, would you go immediately to practice, or you made reference about your focus? Are you focusing more on things that you wanted to clean up as a team, as a unit, or how much emphasis did you put on the next opponent?
We put a lot of emphasis on the next opponent. You have to, really give credit to Coach Larry Station and the coaching staff. Like, for the most part, throughout the year, we never really had to reset on many things. With the whole breakdown chart and everything and the accountability that we have for a team, like I've always said, you always knew as a player where you were lacking or the things that you did good or the things that you didn't do so well. So we really didn't have to do much reset. We had our game plan of what we did each and every day into practice and into the game. So we could pretty much, as a ball club, run practice ourselves. There was a couple of times where we tried to get through practice before Larry and Coach Perry and Coach Barnes, the rest of the guys got out there, where we would start the links or something like that, to get ahead, try to make it look like, we're being assertive, but at the same time, we're trying to eat up some of the clock. But we knew exactly what we had to do. A lot of times we could start practice and get our warm-up in, and once the coaching staff got out there, we got into the game plan and the scheme. We always started off with defensive shell, no matter who we were playing or what the game was. Even in the shoot-around, we started off with the defensive shell. So it was always status quo, no matter what. And once they got out there, we just figured out who we were going to play, watch film, threw the ball out there and got to practice.
So it's been a few years since you played at Iowa State, 26 seasons, I believe.
But 26 seasons.
Every year when you watch Selection Sunday, does it give you that bit of nostalgia of back when you were playing for Iowa State?
Of course. The most nostalgia moment I had is when I, tweeted about, when the commentator said, Jefferson inside, what did they say, double team and up and in. And that was, just all of me, especially at the Big 12. As soon as I got the ball, it was guys coming. And that was the most nostalgic moment that I think I've had for some time now. And for him to be, a kid that I've known for years, going to be wearing number 5, to have success in the Big 12 and at Iowa State, that was really a special moment for me, and which I went on to tweet about it. So, just being a fan of it now, just hoping and praying that we can get across the whatever the hump has been. I think I put in the group chat earlier that I didn't know Nebraska has never won a game in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
to think about things like that is like, wow, so to realize we're one of the top teams in the Power 4 conferences is going to be representing in the NCAA tournament, it's always a great thing to feel like you're one of the ones. Like I said, Jay Biller's got us in the Final Four, so let's go, Jay.
Well, and I think there's a lot of respect there for Iowa State when you see them losing in the semifinals of the Big 12 conference tournament, but yet still secure that 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, when there was a little bit of question about whether we were going to be looking at a 3 seed. And I tell you what, the respect that Big 12 has in Arizona, that was a heck of a game. That as I'm sitting there off to the side of the road waiting for the police and my insurance agent, there was a lot of tweets about just how that was such a good game to watch as a viewer. And it really was, right? 2 high caliber teams going at it, the intensity level, the back and forth. I think I saw somewhere like there were 7 consecutive shots made to finish the game. That was an exceptional game.
Yeah, it's high level, definitely high level basketball. Not to take not to take away from anyone who plays collegiate sports at a possibly of a lower level, but you have to understand how intense and how great of a moment it is, and how profound it is to be a part of something like that. It's I said before, when I was younger, maybe when I used to watch the NBA and they show the game was about to come on, and they show the hoop, and all you see is shot, 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 shot. And I used to think as a kid, there's no way in hell all those shots are going in. And then once I got to the NBA and I realized, like, man, it's all the shots are going in. All the shots are going in. And to sit and watch, the conference tournament and that type of thing happen, it's like every time Milan touched the ball, I felt like it was going to go in every time he touched it. And when Taman rose up, I said, that is bomb. Because you so locked in at that moment, because there's no other opportunity. And then unfortunately, coming down the other end, I was like, okay, the Big 12 Player of the Year got the ball in his hand. If he gets a shot up, it's going to be a Monte Morris situation where we're going to be on the other end of it, and that's what happened. So, tip your hat to Arizona. I said during the group chat, through the text chain, the whole game, like, man, Arizona is tough. They're tough, but we really came with a game plan that even with the loss, I felt like if we run into them again, like we're at the point where we can get across the hump. Those are amazing shots, no doubt.
And I know you watch a ton of college basketball, much more than I do. This feels like it had to have been one of the top 5 games in the entire season.
Yes, absolutely. It's unfortunate that that wasn't, a finals matchup in the Big 12 tournament. Again, not to take anything away from the other programs. Houston deserved to be where they were.
That was a good game too. The Houston-Arizona game was pretty good as well.
Really, really, really good. But that tells you how strong the Big 12 is, like I've said, all season long. It was very, very exciting. It kind of reminded me of, some of the knockout matches that we've had before. But, man, I was hoping we can get that one. I was hoping we can get that one. If you lose to the eventual champions, like Michigan State, I guess you don't feel too bad about it. But to go out like that, man, at the buzzer, again, you got to tip your hat.
Well, it feels like this is a time to introduce our We Will Pizza Performer of the Week. Chris, do you want to roll that commercial?
Let's be honest. Pizza is something almost every family enjoys. You're already grabbing one at the store. So why not choose the best tasting pizza that also supports a cause we all care about? That was the challenge behind We Will Pizza. Create the ultimate frozen pizza for Cyclone fans. Big flavor, bold toppings, and options for everyone, including gluten-free choices that don't sacrifice taste. And if you haven't tried it yet, the real MVP? The breakfast pizza. Perfect for early kickoffs, tailgates, or watch parties when Hilton Magic or Jack Trice Energy is calling. Every bite helps benefit Iowa State student athletes, so your game day spread does more than just taste amazing. It gives back. We Will Pizza. Made for Cyclone fans, built for tailgates, and ready whenever you are. We will, you will, Cyclones will.
So, Marcus, you brought this up earlier, but I'm giving it to Milan Momcilovic. Was 8 for 14 from 3, above 50% again. And he had that incredible sequence at the end of the first half where he scored 9 points in something like 30 seconds. It was just an incredible performance by Milan. He made that game, right? Without him, especially at the end of the second half or the first half, all of a sudden Cyclones got up and the fan base just, at least in Power and Light District, went absolutely nuts. I can imagine it was the same way in the stadium, but Milan Momcilovic, our We Will Pizza Performer of the Week for his game on, I guess that was Friday night, the 13th. How can I forget that?
Yeah, I mean, I would have rather over 50%. I would rather him take 25 threes and be under 50%. Because the more shots he get up, the higher the percentage is he's going to make it, and we're going to score more points. But definitely congratulations to him.
So I want to talk a little bit about Selection Sunday and in the brackets themselves. Have you filled
Mm-hmm.
out your bracket yet, or are you still
You,
noodling in
you
what your
know,
bracket's going to look like?
I am nowhere close. I really sat and I looked at Selection Sunday for the men and the women today. I was able to be home. I don't know where I was the last couple of years. I think traveling or whatever. But no, I haven't filled it out yet. Really looked at it and studied, the bracket. You know, gave my thoughts about, mentally about who may have a tougher road than others. But no, I haven't filled out anything yet. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and again, I want to remind everybody this is our first attempt at a call-in show. So I see that we continue to add more viewers. So I would encourage you that if you want to participate, either join us in the comments or chat section. We can try to get that posted, but more importantly, try to give us a call at 515-442-0703. Again, 515-442-0703. Chris Shipley is on the back end of those. We'll take calls and then let us know to pop you on. We'd love to hear back from you, and feel free to ask Marcus any question about his days of playing for Iowa State or playing in the NBA and for the Bulls. I think it's pretty cool, Marcus, though, that as we start to expand outside the Iowa State world, that you mentioned before, Fred Hoiberg has taken Nebraska to the NCAA tournament, a team that has never seen a win. I was surprised at, but that's pretty cool to have former Cyclones representing in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, but there's no question about we know what the mayor can bring when he gets the opportunity to build a program. Yeah, but that was completely surprising to me too. I even rewinded the TVs and said, "Huh, that's weird." But I definitely have confidence that he's going to get that first win. Um, Without a doubt, I definitely have confidence. They played extremely well. They've had some hiccups throughout the season, but they righted the ship and it wasn't able to win the tournament. But they've been playing well, and it's just so funny to see Sam and Charlie being grown men out there, on the bench and stuff. Now it's like I remember when Jack and Paige were little kids, and then they were babies, and it's like, man, 26 years later, I feel so old watching these kids out there playing, the sport that I love. And I can imagine, Freddie a couple years older than me, so he probably feels the same way. But it's exciting.
Well, and I remember the Hoiberg twins playing
Mm-hmm.
for all Iowa Tech along with Taman Lipsey. They were at that elite level. My son was a few notches down, but it's been cool to see all of those guys that had such success at Iowa Tech playing now in the NCAA tournament. And obviously, this is Taman Lipsey's final season at Iowa State. And I guess with Fred Hoiberg as the mayor, we might as well call Taman the governor, right?
I thought that's what they called it. They hadn't given that moniker for sure. I thought I read something about that.
Well, I think it's safe to call him that at this point. So, and especially especially if the Cyclones make it to the Elite Eight, right?
Especially when the Cyclones make it to the Elite Eight.
Win, there we go.
But yeah, I mean, it's been phenomenal to watch Taman all these years. Like he seemed like he's been the grown man he is now since his freshman year. You always, the opportunity to have an opportunity to have like a Jock Vaughn type of mentality point guard, shows you how much success. He doesn't do anything crazy out of the norm. He's going to play the way that he needs to play offensively and defensively, and it's always great. Bittersweet to see that this is his last year, but we've been blessed and fortunate to have him to be the floor general of the Cyclones for the last 4 years.
Well, and I'm hoping we're going to take a break. In the other side, I really want to talk about the brackets and the tournaments and how you see things shaking out, especially the first couple of rounds. I know it gets a little bit dicey as you get deeper into the tournament. I'm hoping still that Hallice Cooke will go ahead and hop on here shortly and join us. Love to hear his insights. I was telling Chris before the show started that he feels like there's some symbolism there between him and myself, because I'll see that he's on Twitter and then he sort of goes off for a week or so, and then you don't see him for 6 months. I think I do the exact same thing where I just have to get things out, and then all of a sudden you won't hear from me for a while. So hoping Hallice Cooke will join us here after the break. And certainly on the other side, we'll talk a little bit of Selection Sunday and where we see the tournament playing out.
Yes, sir.
In the heart of Des Moines, one name has stood above the rest: Iowa Beef Steakhouse. Step inside, and you enter a place where tradition still matters, where the atmosphere feels familiar, warm, and unmistakably Iowa. Service isn't rushed. It's personal, attentive, and rooted in genuine care. And before the main event, the freshest start in the city, our signature salad bar, crafted every single day. Then comes the reason people have returned for generations: Iowa beef, hand-seasoned with pride. Guided by flame, forged by heat. This is where flavor becomes legend. Served with the same care it was crafted with, a meal meant to be remembered. And whether the night calls for bold, smooth, or something in between, our bar offers a selection as rich as our history, including the old-fashioned we've become known for: balanced, timeless, unforgettable. And long after the fire cools, the glow of this place stays with you. Iowa Beef Steakhouse, 1201 East Euclid Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, where Iowa comes for steak, done right. When you walk into Coach's Kolaches, you might be a little overwhelmed by all the great choices, but do not be overwhelmed by how to say it.
What's a colache?
Oh, cola cheese? Colache?
Kolaches?
Kolache?
Like the shoes? No, that can't be right.
It's kolache, but it don't matter what you call it, as long as you call it good.
Start your morning the Coach's Kolaches way. Every single batch is made fresh at sunrise by Coach himself. You can taste the care in every bite. Craving something savory? Go with that branded Texas flavor. Warm, hearty, and packed with down-home goodness. Or maybe you're craving the sweeter life. Then you've got to try the fruit-filled kolaches, or those soft, fresh cinnamon rolls that practically melt in your mouth. Got that game day fever? We got just what you need at that tailgate.
How's it going, man?
Good.
Tailgating this weekend.
Yeah, what can I get
Big
you?
one. Give me a dozen jalapeno sausages and 6 each of the sausage and bacon.
And listen, we all know how good these are, so you better get more than you think. So run, don't walk to Coach's Kolaches, 2777 100th Street in Urbandale, or call ahead for big orders at 515-802-6200.
Gentlemen, let's be honest. Finding the perfect gift for your wife or girlfriend isn't always easy. You want something thoughtful, stylish, and unique. And that's exactly what you'll find at Styled by JJ Boutique. Julia Bradshaw and her team strive to be your go-to boutique for casual, boho, and chic clothing and accessories, helping women elevate their style one piece at a time. Located right here in Johnston, Iowa, Styled by JJ brings trendy, high-quality fashion that boosts confidence without breaking the bank. So, if you're looking for a gift that says, I get you, instead of I tried, head to Styled by JJ Boutique. Because nothing makes her smile like feeling beautiful. Styled by JJ Boutique, where style meets confidence. Visit our Johnston location or shop online at styledbyjjboutique.com.
All right, we are back to Inside the Storm. I'm Dave Larson here with Marcus Pfizer. And Marcus, let's talk Selection Sunday. Again, everyone, we are continuing to take calls. 515-442-0703. Again, 515-442-0703. If you're not able to get through, please send us a comment or something so we know if it's working or not. All right, so the Big 12 was well represented today. 8 selections in this year's tournament. I would love to go through all of them, but I don't have my list here in front of me. So in the West, let's start in the East. Duke is the number 1 seed with UConn 2, Michigan State 3, Kansas 4, representing the Big 12. And in the West, Arizona out of the Big 12 is the number 1 seed, followed by Purdue, Gonzaga, and Arkansas. Out of the Midwest, that's where you'll find the Iowa State Cyclones as the number 2 seed, followed by your Michigan Wolverines at number 1, Virginia at 3, and Alabama 4 seed. And then out of the South region, Florida, Houston is the 2 seed, Illinois, and Nebraska. That is a very intriguing region for me, Marcus, because that regional final is slated to be played in Houston. So Houston's backyard. If I'm Florida, I'm not exceptionally happy having to face Houston in their backyard. Doesn't seem fair, but I think it again, we talked earlier about the representation of the Big 12 and the respect that the committee has for the Big 12. So Houston essentially is a 1A seed, at least for this year's tournament, getting that in their backyard.
Yeah,
breakdown.
I mean, I ran into a Michigan State in Detroit. So
how little we forget. That's right.
Right, similar circumstances. So hey, I understand.
SEC has 10 representative teams. Big 10, 9. Again, Big 12, 8. I guess I cannot disagree with the committee. You know, maybe a case could have been made for West Virginia and Cincinnati. Ultimately, there really felt like there was a clear delineation between the teams there, with TCU getting one of the final bids out of the Big 12, and then the ACC with 8 as well. So out of the Big 4 conference, and I think you tweeted about this earlier tonight, but 35 Big 4 teams representing 68 total selections for the tournament.
Yeah, the Big 12 is what it is, and we beat up on each other all year long. Someone is not going to have the most favorable record at the end, but they know how strong the conference is, so we squeeze in as many as we can possible. Those other conferences that don't have as many good teams try to slide in as much as they can to be competitive, but we'll see what happens at the end. I feel very, very confident about the teams that the Big 12 is sending to the tournament this year.
Cyclones play Friday. I believe I saw somewhere it was 3:10 Central, 4:10 Eastern in St. Louis. So that's very comfortable.
It's 1:50. That was a fake tweet. It's 1:50
Oh,
Central
wow.
time.
I am
Oh, wow. I
actually
wonder if that
glad
came from
about
Hallice.
that because I took Thursday and
1:50.
Friday off. So either way, it works for me. I'll be there.
All 3 Iowa schools play on Friday.
That's going to be fun. So Iowa and UNI made the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, nice. My sister-in-law went to UNI, so shout out to her.
That'll be fun. Tennessee Tech, I did a little intel on them. They're based out of the Ohio Valley Conference, 15-5 in their conference. They tied with Morehead State, who they beat pretty soundly in the conference championship game. They're really a guard-heavy team, which I think is something that might give us a little bit of a challenge. They've got 2 guys. 2 of those guards are 6'6". Their third guard is more of a facilitator. He's 6 foot tall. And those guards are, let's see, Aaron Nakumra. Marcus, you may be familiar with his game. He looks like a pretty decent athlete, averages about 17 points a game. Travis Harper is the other 6'6" guard, averaging another 17 points a game. He shoots it pretty well, 40% from 3, 47% from the field overall. And then that facilitator point guard is Dante Harris. He averages 11 points a game. So kind of an interesting matchup for our guards to go up against a very guard-heavy team. Any thoughts on that?
No, it kind of feels like, when we matched up against Central Connecticut my last year, it's one of those games that can have you nervous. We've been through, Hampton University beating us in Jamal Tinsley's last year. even though there was a lot of controversy about that. I mean, I saw a clip of that on Twitter earlier, and I was like, man, like that ball literally rolled off the rim. You know, a lot of people was talking about he blew the game, and
Oh,
I
I
heard all
have that
kind of different
video.
stuff.
Are you
I
talking
have that
the
video
had-
if you'd
Are
like
you
to
talking
see
the
it.
Hampton game?
Yeah, the Hampton game,
Yeah.
and I remember watching it from the
Sure, let's
ESPN
share
zone in
that.
Chicago.
Chris,
Let's take a
And
this
look.
is a cyclone.
I'm
This
aware.
is a 4. No, this is bad memories.
Yeah, and I just remember saying like it was just a great shot. How he can get that close to the basket and it just rolled off the top.
Yeah.
That's just and there's no way Mill understood why that ball didn't go in. So it's one of those scariest matchups, man. It's really really scary. You know, the first game into the tournament. I remember the first half of Central Connecticut. It just being, you know, I don't think we went in at halftime up that by that many. And I just remember being focused in the second half, you know, about coming out and taking care of business. But I definitely have confidence that we're going to win the game. But it's definitely one of those scary ones.
Interesting matchups for us as well. So we do have that game again against a guard heavy. They've got a couple of guys that are 6'8" that are power forward type of positions. So they've got, but that's about it, right? They do have some height with the 3 guards, 2 in particular. They're 6'6". They've got the 2 6'8" guys. Should be some interesting matchups for us. Tennessee State averages 12 turnovers a game. Again, that's Ohio Valley Conference competition. So I will be intrigued. You know, I think this feels like one that if we can get those guards out of their wits, out of their normal, that we have a chance to turn them over quite a bit. And as we all know, watching this team the entire season, turnovers turn into offense for us when we play that lockdown defense.
Yeah, I think if we turn up the pressure and make them uncomfortable, possibly some pressure that they hadn't seen, a lot of firepower that they hadn't seen, we should be, you know, okay. We know the defensive prowess that Iowa State has, the intensity that, you know, TJ is going to bring, and put into the guys from the start. So I'm going to be confident, not overly confident, just confident enough to know who we are as a ball club and win this first one and move on to the next.
Being a former athlete and former player, what do you think TJ's emphasis is going to be? You know, obviously he's a defensive guy, right? He's about that ball pressure and making things uncomfortable for the other team. As we lock into this week, and it feels like we're going to have maybe an extra day of practice with the game not being until Friday, what do you think his focus is with this team heading into the tournament?
The defense. I mean, there's no other, you know, way to look at it. This past weekend, I watched a lot of the state championships in basketball and high school basketball back home, and just saying to myself, you know, understanding these guys play some bad basketball, especially in high school, because it's all offense. And I've seen so many state championships that were lost just by the fact of if you play more sound defense, you know, just pressure your own man, help the helper, and things like that. It goes a long way. And at this level, you understand the emphasis being on the defensive end. You know, you get stops, that creates momentum. You go back on the other end and you score, then that makes you want to play more defense. And so that's definitely going to be the MO that we're going to have. I know for sure. We know we have enough firepower from the 1 to the 5 to score baskets. So that's going to be the biggest thing we need to focus on.
All right. So assuming that we win on Friday, there would be a matchup looming against Kentucky or Santa Clara. I'm just going to say this now. I'm expecting an upset there in that 7-10 game. I anticipate Santa Clara, the 10 seed, beating Kentucky. Mark Pope, Kentucky, they feel average. They're not the Kentucky that I think a lot of us grew up watching. They're a team that when I looked at their schedule, they've beaten the lower half of the SEC, but then they've not been as successful against the upper half. So a very average team this year. where Santa Clara, I'll be honest, I know nothing about them other than they play in the same conference as St. Mary's, and I think it's Gonzaga. They've
Yep,
had a
that's the
really
same company.
successful season, and one of the things that they were talking about on this selection show was that they're big, that they rebound, and I thought that's a recipe that you take that with you on the road or in a tournament, you're going to win some games playing that style. So I'm expecting Santa Clara to come out and beat Kentucky. How do you read that game, and is that too early to start talking about that type of matchup?
Um, it's one of the ones that stood out to me as well. To me, it's kind of disappointing that for the University of Kentucky to have alum and Coach Pope, Mark Pope, to be playing there and coaching there. That they're not doing what I expected him or giving him what I expected him, or as much as they gave Calipari to be successful at the University of Kentucky. So he's done well with what he's been able to maintain and wrangle up from recruits and stuff here. But I think the game plan that he has to be a lot stronger than what it has been all year long. Again, once we're to this tournament, anything can happen. Santa Clara can definitely, surprise us. I think Kentucky in the end will pull it out as a squeaker, but it's kind of disappointing. Hopefully, the next couple of years, start next year, they can turn this thing around and get Kentucky back to where we used to seeing them be. But we'll see what happens.
You sound like a Kentucky homer. What are you talking about? You hope that Kentucky comes back? I don't. I hate Kentucky.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I know Mark really well. I know,
Oh, you do?
a lot of ex-players, play with Ron Mercer, Antoine Walker, Tony Dell. I know a lot of guys who played at the University of Connecticut. And, it was one of those teams growing up that I had always liked. Got recruited by them early before Iowa State came in and became the most dominant, program for me to attend. So just always had a soft spot for University of Kentucky and the things they've done. Like I said, some of the older guys, Twan and Ron Mercer. Ron Mercer and I played together my rookie year, so he taught me a lot as a pro. It's just seeing what those guys come from and seeing where the program is now is just like they should be a whole lot better than it.
All right. Again, I want to remind everyone this is a call-in show, our first attempt at this. So hope that you can call in 515-442-0703. So, all right, Marcus, is it Kentucky or Michigan that you prefer?
What you
talked
mean
about before? But you've talked before about your affection towards Michigan.
Well, I'm from Detroit. I was born and raised in Detroit. Yeah. So growing up watching, the Fab Five, Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, and those guys, had I not gone to Iowa State, Michigan would have been the first place in my heart to go. Had I transferred from Iowa State, it probably would have been to Michigan. It either would have been to Michigan or LSU. So that's, being a fan now, it kind of reminds me of how Gilbert Arenas talks about the Lakers all the time. He's from California. He never played for the Lakers, but he say us with the Lakers all the time now, like he played for the Lakers. But it's just being a fan, of the one of the blue blood programs that you watched and kind of thought about growing up and things of that nature. But it probably would be Michigan, Iowa State, and Michigan. Either those two. Again, had I left Iowa State after Tim Floyd left, I probably would have been, calling to the University of Michigan to see if there was a spot for me there. It probably wouldn't have been Kentucky, either Michigan or LSU. Shaq was unhappy that I didn't choose LSU out of high school. He really, really, really reamed me behind that. But, I told him I had to get away, and Iowa State was the place for me, and he understood.
All right, so do you anticipate us in a Sweet 16 matchup that would be played the following week in Chicago, of all places? This is great for Iowans, right? We
It's
get
it.
a 5 or 6 hour drive down to St. Louis, and then if we make it to the Sweet 16, it's a 5.5, 6 hour trip to Chicago.
I do. We said in the text chain, before, it's pretty much every game that I was nervous about, we didn't pull out. And the way I feel, the way we're playing, even losing to Arizona the other night, we're really locked in. We're really, really locked in. The last couple of games in the Big 12 tournament, the game down in was that Tucson against Arizona before that, that really doesn't affect me too much. The way we played in the Big 12 tournament, the way we just played Arizona again in the Big 12 tournament, really, really shows that the guys is locked in. I hopefully everyone is healthy. Hopefully Taven didn't do anything. When he grabbed his groin, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" But then for some reason my TV was behind everyone else, and my tweets was off a little bit because someone said in the chat like, "Well, he's back," and I was like, "Oh, he's
That's
not. He's in the tunnel right now."
That's because Dave was down there watching it almost live on a regular feed. That's
Oh.
why I had to tell him. I was
Both of
like,
you
"You're
were that
ahead of
far
us."
back.
You
My
did
bad.
say that. You did
Yeah.
say that.
It's
I
like,
was
"You're ahead of
"He's
us.
coming
Shut
in
up."
the
My bad.
tunnel." Well, yeah, I'm glad. Hopefully that's nothing severe. He did come back, and as we saw, he knocked down that big shot to try to, tie it up and put us in overtime. But unfortunately, we didn't win that one. But I like the way we're locked in. Maybe TJ's shirt is a little bit tighter this weekend, so let's get it going.
So, fast forward then, assuming we come out Sweet 16 matchup, potentially against the 3 seed Virginia. Again, that team looked really good in the ACC tournament. They look for real. There's a lot of talent there. That would be an intriguing matchup. And I have to say, the fact that St. Louis and Chicago are so close to Ames, I got to believe that that's to our benefit to play in those two venues.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some good luck behind that. To speak on, what teams have me nervous, that Virginia team would be the team that would have me nervous going into the tournament as a possible matchup. But, one game at a time, 1 week at a time. Speaking of the nostalgia, just thinking about, how, man, I was getting one class in a week. And that was amazing to be able to focus on basketball. I have to focus on school, go hoop, come home a hero, and then go back out the next week.
How does that work with classes? I mean,
I had
you're
2
on
classes.
the road the entire month, pretty much.
I had class Tuesdays and Thursdays. Shout out to my counselor for scheduling it that way. I literally didn't have class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so Tuesdays and Thursdays was the days that I had class. We would come back on Monday. I would go to class on Tuesday. Then we would leave out on Wednesday and be on the road Thursday throughout the rest of the weekend. So that was love.
Well, and when I was looking at an earlier bracket in the day, I think they had St. John's as one of the potential games that we could play. That had me nervous. Virginia, yes, I think they're a good quality team. I like the opportunities presented in front of us, though, with Tennessee State, Santa Clara, Virginia, and really Tennessee could come out of there too. I don't know that they're the Tennessee of prior seasons. And then on the top half of the Midwest bracket, obviously you've got Michigan at the 1 seed. They lost today against Purdue, but they've shown it all season long. That's a really good team that should we come out and play our game like we did against Arizona, let's face it, we can beat any team, including a 1 seed Michigan. Although I would not, Texas Tech is sort of looming there. And, they lost TJ Toppin earlier this season with that torn ACL. And they're a team that is sort of up and down, even with a Toppin, but there's a potential there that maybe we would face them. I would love to face the Texas Tech, maybe asking a little bit too much in a regional final game with Michigan there, but I like our chances to get to an Elite Eight for the first time since 2000.
Yeah. This season in college basketball, it's like with the whole NIL and everything, programs are getting better. They're getting a lot better. Like the games are a lot better. The talent is a lot better. You know, for that, right? You know, there's a lot of older talent that's still in college basketball, but hey, it makes it for better basketball. And I think the better teams are the ones that are going to be the cream of the crop this year. Are there going to be some Cinderella upsets? Possibly so. I think, you know, knock on wood, borrowing is going to have to be because of injuries and things like that. But I really like the strong teams.
Is there a Cinderella that you've seen that you think this is my team?
Oh, it was one that I saw earlier.
And I know that you hate predictions.
Put the bracket back up again.
I totally understand that you hate predictions. We've talked
I
about
do.
this for the past 2 or 3 seasons, right? You hate to predict anything.
Maybe.
In this case, though, we all have to do it. I mean, it's part of the tournament, right?
It is part of the tournament, but I don't. This is the team that I don't think is necessarily well, of course, by the seeding, but Arkansas is scary. Arkansas is scary. Arkansas is scary. I think back out of the bracket one. I think Arkansas could be. Let me see who else is in that.
And Arkansas is West as the 4 seed.
I think Arkansas is going to make it to easily the Sweet 16. And depending on what's going on with, you know, Arizona in that top bracket, if there's no injuries, anything like Arkansas is scary. Of course, we know Acuff Jr. is just. I watched them and I was like, man, these guys are good. Calipari always have good teams, but it was weird that they didn't have such a good season this year. But
they're all young guys too.
They're pros though. They're definitely pros. It wasn't them. Let me see. Primary use Queens, North Carolina. Oh, I saw that one. It may have been them that I was thinking about. Shout out to my ex player. Played for me in high school with Cal Baptist, Martell Williams. They've gone to their first NCAA tournament, so it's definitely glad to see him be able to make it to the big dance with Cal Baptist. Definitely hope they beat Kansas. Definitely see them upsetting Kansas. So let's go with them. North Dakota State would love to see them beat them on their first line.
So I think you raised a good point. Now, Kansas, obviously, we're going to support the Big 12, but to play Cal Baptist, and I know nothing about Cal Baptist, but one of the things that I love about this tournament is the underdog that plays close to home.
Mm-hmm.
And Cal Baptist is from the LA area. That game against Kansas is in San Diego. I just envision that there's going to be a lot of Cal Baptist fans at that game and fewer Kansas fans than Cal Baptist. I see that as a potential upset in the first round. Call me crazy.
They got some athletes. They definitely got some athletes. And I know the athlete that, you know, my ex-player, Martell is. Their point guard he's a heater. He definitely can score the ball. And for them they were the number 2 seed in their conference, and they won the conference tournament, which got them in against the number 1 seed, Utah Valley. So I can definitely see that being, you know, scary for Kansas as well. We never know what we're going to get with Darren Peterson. You know, he's hinting about coming back. He's hinting about, you know, everybody about the NBA and all of that stuff. So
he's not coming back. I'm sorry. There's just no way. He's a projected lottery pick. I just don't see that happening. The question is which Darren Peterson shows up for the tournament, right?
Which one shows up for the tournament? That kid can play. Yeah. My God, he can play. But it's one of those geez, like what is go? Like I said earlier, is he injured? Is it, coasting for the NBA? Like what is going on? But when he's locked in, his man, the way he moves, his shot is like, man, he really really can play. And at the same time, we can get to the tournament and he just explode. But what's really going to happen? So hopefully, we can see some excitement out of him. But I'm going to pull for my young Philadelphia.
But as a
This
money
time.
player, isn't this what you live for, the NCAA tournament? Or is it more about, with the dollars involved at the NBA level, is it more about protecting yourself and getting ready for the NBA? I mean, he's already a top 3 pick, probably. You've heard about him
Definitely.
being maybe even number 1 or 2. So if that's the case, how much do players in today's era put towards the NCAA tournament? To me, like I'm competitive, right? So I want to win every game. I don't care what it
Right.
is. If it's playing card games, go fish with my kids, or
Right.
playing in the championship game, I want to win. And so how much does a player like that, Darren Peterson, who has had his ups and downs, and there's been a question about his intensity level and his want, his desire, what's it look like for him in this year's tournament?
Well, that's what I say. I don't. I questioned earlier. Was it an injury or is it someone that's telling him, get off the accelerator a little bit? For him, I think he's going to be top 3. I think he's going to be 2. There's nobody in college basketball as a talent of an upside is better than AJ DeMonte to me. Like the kid is just phenomenal. I think Boozer is going to go 3. So for me, it's going to be those 1, 2, 3. If Kansas happens to survive further, maybe he will turn it on a lot more. If it seems to be out of reach, I think they're going to, whoever's going to pull them is going to pull them. But, as a collegiate athlete, you would think you would want to win it all and go as far as possible. You see the kids, one of the top picks is going to be Kingston, from Houston. Every second out there, he's playing as hard as he can. Not even thinking about he's going to be a lottery pick. And a lot of other guys are the exact same way. But with this kid, the dynamic of what he could be is so high. You never know what you're going to get one night to the next, and it's kind of disappointing because you want to see phenomenal things done. I think no matter what, he's going to be a high pick. So why wouldn't you give it all?
So we talked a little bit about Cal Baptist and the potential for a huge upset against Kansas in San Diego. I tell you what's intriguing too, for those of us who remember Northern Iowa against Kansas it's probably been a decade now, that is an intriguing prospect. I just don't see Northern Iowa getting past St. John's. St. John's, they're a 5 seed. To me, they're a 3, if not a 2 seed. That's a really good team that Northern Iowa is facing. So I fully anticipate St. John's coming into the Sweet 16, beating either Kansas or Cal Baptist.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that's going to wreak havoc because they're in a seeding that they shouldn't necessarily be. I don't know about 2 seed. I would give them a strong 3. They play well all year long. So a strong 3, but I don't know about the 2. But I think they're really, really going to wreak havoc once the tournament starts.
So obviously you watch so much more basketball than I do. I went through and looked at all of the Big 12 teams and thought, okay, is there a sleeper just out of the Big 12? You hate to go into all the other teams because I just don't watch enough of them. I'm going to give you one that I think could be in for a surprise of the tournament, and that's UCF.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of U's in that side of the eastern region. So UCF plays UCLA. And I can see UCF pulling that off, upset, and then they would probably play UConn, again, another U school. I can see UCF perhaps being a Cinderella and making the Sweet 16. Am I crazy?
That's the team that I was looking for, and that was the matchup that I was looking for. And I said they're going to beat They're going to beat UCLA. That Mick Cronin is going to be real unhappy that they got that draw because Coach Dawkins is the coach for UCF. And when
Yeah.
I heard that and I saw that on Selection Sunday, I said that's going to be one of the upsets that I picked.
And I think that game is played in Philly, and I don't know why I think Johnny Dawkins is from that area. I would have to go back and look, but that would again lead me to believe that there could be an influx of fans cheering for UCF against someone like a UConn, but maybe not, because UConn would be so much closer than UCF should the two play each other.
It's going to be exciting, definitely.
Any other games that you have on your radar? You know, I think I would look at a team like Nebraska again. It's that Fred Hoiberg piece that I really want to see him succeed. They're in the South region as a 4 seed. They play Troy in the first game, and then they would follow up against Vanderbilt, McNeese. However, Vanderbilt's been playing really good basketball. I think that they made the SEC championship game, and they look like a legit contender coming out as a 6-5 seed in the South.
Yeah, they played extremely well today. I thought they was going to pull that one out. You know, they've had some injuries. You know, one of my ex-players that's on the squad has been out all year long, and Frankie Collins. So, but I think, you know, even without him, they've done extremely well this year. They started the game today a little down, and then they made a run. They had to lead for a little while, but they wasn't able to pull it out. So they're one of those teams I feel like is going to make a splash as well.
So as I'm looking at the Big 12 as a whole, there's an opportunity there for a number of Big 12 teams to make it all the way to the Final Four. So, you know, out of the East, that one is probably the one, if I'm going to guess, is not going to happen. I just don't have a lot of confidence in Kansas. Don't get me wrong, they have the potential. We talked about Darren Peterson. We've seen them play. They seem to be maybe not have the athletes to stick with the higher caliber teams game after game, although all it takes in the NCAA tournament is to get hot, stay hot, and it's all about matchups. So out of the East, I just don't see that happening. I think Houston has a very legitimate opportunity, considering that the regional final is going to be in Houston. So I would anticipate them coming out of the South against Florida. Now, Florida is obviously going to say otherwise. Obviously, the Midwest, Iowa State has an exceptional chance there. Not saying that I would predict them for a Final Four, because I think Michigan's really good. And then obviously Arizona with the 1 seed coming out of the West. So there's a world where you could see 3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four, which I think would be just absolutely incredible. And that's in Indianapolis that first weekend in April.
Yeah, I don't like Indianapolis in the Final Four for obvious reasons, but
I'm sure Tyrese Halliburton's sitting on the sidelines for that, isn't he?
Yeah, has he gotten over his shingles? Hopefully. By now.
That's right. He had the shingles.
But for Houston to get that draw, you know, there's going to be love. For them to be the runner-up to the national championship last year, to come back again, you know, Coach Kelvin Sampson is just phenomenal. Always been that kind of coach that's going to put that product out there. That does give them an easier way, as you may predict. So, you know, hopefully, you know, the Big 12 can continue to represent on into the Final Four, into the finals, including Iowa State being one of those ball clubs.
Well, and I'm really looking for that opportunity for Iowa State, though. You know, we've talked a little bit earlier this season about how we match up against teams, and Michigan is one that has played at a very elite level all season long that I think we've compared ourselves to, short of Arizona and Houston. I think that's, you know, those are the top 3 teams in the Big 12, and Kansas is right up there, but Michigan is one that I think that is intriguing. So I find it fascinating that we have the chance, hypothetically, to make it to the Elite Eight and face them for the right to go to the Final Four. I think that would be just an absolutely incredible way route to make it. And whether we win or lose that game, that is probably going to be the best game of the tournament should that happen.
It seems to happen all the time. Iowa State in some of the best game of the tournament that doesn't end up being the national championship game. But we're gonna do what we got to do, represent extremely well. We keep everyone healthy. There's no doubt. I feel like we can compete with anyone in the nation. You know, we showed why we got us as high as number 2 in the nation this year, and you know, this far into the tournament, we're going to continue to prove that.
How many brackets are you going to put together? I think in years past you said you only do one. Oh, you're going to do 3?
Maybe 3, because you guys are always on me about doing more than one. I mean, that one barely gets. I mean, I even do like the simulated brackets where I'm like, I'm not going with that. So maybe one, because I like to feel, you know, am I really? No one has ever had a perfect bracket. I don't know, is Warren Buffett still giving $1 billion for the perfect bracket type thing, whatever he used to do? But I like to see if I've been pretty good with predicting the overall winner, but you know, the routes of getting there has always been squirrely. But probably 3 the max, maybe traditionally the 1.
So I know, again, you hate predicting things when we ask you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
A U-Haul is coming right at you down the interstate, and you've got to make a selection. Where does Iowa State finish the season?
Strongfully, I would say the Elite Eight. Fearfully, I would say Sweet 16.
Okay. So the top end, you're basically saying Sweet 16 or bust, and but you're optimistic that we'll finish in the Elite Eight and lose for the right to go to the Final Four. Yes.
We'll feel strong if we get to the Elite Eight, but you know, definitely if we lose before Sweet 16, I might not watch the rest of the tournament. Because this as good as this team is, you know, to lose some of the games outside of the Arizona game in the Big 12 tournament, but a couple of games that we lost late, BYU, Texas Tech, those were disappointing losses that I felt like we shouldn't have lost, but it is what it is. I really, really feel like this team is one of the strongest teams that we've had in program history, and it would be very, very disappointing that we don't go as far as we should.
Well, and Marcus, we haven't talked a lot of women, but the women are in the NCAA tournament, and I think there was some optimism that perhaps we would get dropped down. Surprisingly, they're an 8 seed. Which is, again, probably a certain level of respect for having Addie Brown out, injured for quite a bit of the season and working her way back. Having AJ out for a period of time as well, that, you know, she appears to be fully back. The challenge with the women is that they're playing in Storrs, Connecticut, home of UConn women. And the women, UConn women are the number 1 seed in the entire tournament. Iowa State is the 8th seed playing number 9 seed Syracuse in Storrs. 1 o'clock. I'm seeing here that it's a 1:10 Central tip on Saturday against Syracuse. So I'll be watching that one. If we win, we get the right to be able to have a challenge in playing the number 1 seeded UConn women, which should be a fun challenge, I think, because this could be the shocker of the tournament. So I can imagine a world where we beat Syracuse, go into the dungeon that is Storrs, Connecticut, and pull the shocker of the tournament. And typically the women is more of a chalk mentality, right? You get the lowest seed seems to always win in the women's tournament. What would you think about the Iowa State women beating the top seed Yukon Huskies women?
I was thinking it'd be amazing to happen. I mean, just like we were that close to beating Stanford a few seasons ago. I think it'd be similar to that.
And that was at Stanford as well.
Stanford. Right. So with that, especially having Audie Cruz, we know she could drop 60 on any given night, and if we have her rolling that night, I'll be crazy not to think that we can pull that one out. So being in Connecticut, that's not going to be a big deal for us. I mean, it's cold like it is in Ames, Iowa. So let's throw the ball up and let's see what happens.
Well, and that game again is Saturday. So if they were to, if Iowa State beats Syracuse, that game would be on a Monday night. And I've said it so many times this season that the Iowa State women have all the tools there. You've got the dominant player, post player down low. You've got the outside shooters around her. You've got the playmakers in Jada Williams. That this team has the potential to pull off that shocker. That if there's any team out there that could do it, it's the Iowa State Cyclones. That I love this team. I always have, even during their struggles, while frustrating at times. And you've called him the GOAT, Bill Fennelly. He has the right tools there, and if we can put it together, that could be the shocker of the women's tournament. So I'm really looking forward to watching the women play again Saturday at 1:10 Central. So this is shaping up. We'll be able to watch the men on Friday, the women on Saturday, hopefully the men again on Sunday, and then hopefully the women again on Monday. So 4 straight games for the NCAA tournament of Iowa State Cyclones. It should be a lot of fun.
Will be a lot of fun.
All right. Hey, I don't know if you saw this. I probably texted you. I apologize. But Jason Tatum returned to the Celtics.
Oh, yeah.
Tearing his Achilles. I love it. I love that move. Like, we don't get to talk a lot about NBA, but doggone it, I love the fact that you've got a guy that's coming back that I don't want to say is risking it all, because it's not like he's going to die if he tears something again. But I love the fact, that mentality of, I'm a winner. I want a championship. I'm healthy, at least healthy enough. I'm coming back. Let's go get it. I just love it.
But I question, if they weren't number 2 in the East, would they have come back?
Good question. I don't know.
That's the thing, though. That's it. Like, I think with them being so high, number 2 in the East, I think they could have floated him some more time to make 100% sure. Like, it's great to see him back. I know that thing is sore as ever. They're trying to act like it's not. They try to, what they call it, maintenance, what they call it now, where they sit him out. They set him out a few games since he's been back. But I just, we're in the beginning of March. Things really, really amp up in April. Just even if you let him come back, every once in a while, or just get some hard practices in. We don't need it to be fatigued in April because he went so hard in March. So I think they should have floated him a little more time, knock on wood. Because, we're doing the same thing with our guy, Tyrese Halliburton. So he's not going to come back, especially with this team, them being the last place team in the whole entire NBA. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I like the mentality and everything, but, if we can play with house money for a little while, why not? Just like I said,
kudos to the Celtic front office for being able to get their team in a position, because Indiana went into a different direction. They're not going to likely be in the playoffs. But kudos to the Celtics for at least maintaining a certain level of excellence, that you've got a guy, one of the best players in the league, coming back to you for the stretch run and have that opportunity to be in championship contention. As far as I'm concerned, they're the leaders in the East, regardless of who's in first place. When you got a guy like Tatum coming back, that team is going to be there at the end.
Well, they have some stars that was on the team after he went out.
Jaylen Brown is a really good player too.
And people don't give, what's the guard there? Derek. John the blank, the shooter, the ball headed shooter. They don't give him enough credit. Or Derek White. They don't
Yeah.
give him enough credit. He really plays extremely well. And then Peyton Pritchard has just come out to be like, where did this guy come from? He can score the ball, he passes it, he shoots it like crazy. So they've been able to weather the storm in the not so dominant East anymore. So that's what I'm saying. I felt like they could have gave him a little bit of time more. I just don't, as an athlete, just knowing how injuries are, it's never really, and I don't think this is what people understand. It's never really the major issues. It's always the soft tissue injuries that hamper the longest. The thigh, the calf strains, those type things is what gets you into trouble. And then when you're dealing with an Achilles, like those calves is what the biggest thing that you worry about. So trying to get in position to be in the play-in, try to get in a position to level up a little bit is different than being the number 2 team in the league without you. So taking us, okay, let's get us to April, continue to play well, and then I come back in April and just no minutes restrictions and things like that will be a little bit different than now. I'm interested in seeing how the injury and the recovery continues to be. Hopefully he doesn't have any injuries and definitely no setbacks. Because when I heard that Deshaun Watson retore his Achilles, they were real quiet about that. And I was like, that's what tends to happen when you rush the guys back. It's science for a reason. We can't always be Superman to think, oh, we can do it. That's what our mind tells us. But there's a reason why scientists are what they are, which are extensions of doctors, and I think they should listen. Now, at any rate, I don't think that the doctors.
So you would have brought him
anything
back.
You
would have brought him
Not this
back.
though.
You just would have
Right.
waited. You would have waited a month.
I possibly wouldn't have brought him back at all, but to see his progression,
Oh.
I don't know what his progression has been or what it necessarily is. But if it's gotten to the point to where he can play, okay, now it makes a little sense to put him back on the floor. Let's see where he's at to put him back on the floor. Oh, I see where he's second place in the whole entire Eastern Conference. If I can float him a little while longer while he's making his 55, 58, $60 million a year, we're going to float him a little bit longer, to get us in a position to have him at 100% full strength going into the playoffs and, possibly 85, 90. That just would have been my thought process.
So,
but I'm also not a GM.
I grew up a Lakers fan, and I can't say that I love the Celtics, but I have mad respect for this team, and maybe it's the Netflix series that was on that had Jason Tatum on season 1 and Jaylen Brown on season 2. But I think this is really cool to be able to watch this play out, and I've got a lot of respect for that organization to put themselves in this position. And as much as it hurts me to say, being a Lakers fan growing up, I'm cheering on the Celtics to see what they can do. As long as the Lakers they don't face Luka and LeBron in the finals, I got to admit I'm going to be cheering for the Celtics this season to finish strong and win the championship.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. I think the San Antonio Spurs are the ones that are going to come out the West, though. My Thunder have had a bad going with them this year.
Did you watch today's game with SGA? His streak almost ended. He had, I think, 4 points at halftime.
Him having 4 points at halftime
it was insane.
I think that's for the sports bettors because he's definitely gonna get about 12 free throws to get him back up there. But what did he finish with?
I think he finished with 20 points. So he got to the threshold. So that's another,
Wow.
He continues to set the record that he surpassed Will Chamberlain with. That's a pretty big deal. And he's still a young guy. It was amazing to watch. And my son was texting me, hey, he finally got it, because I was in the other room doing something else. But a little bit of concern that he wasn't going to do it this tonight. So it was fun to watch. And I think they ended up winning that game.
Yeah,
all right, my friend, the tournament is here. Let's make sure that we cheer on the Cyclones. Again, we've got a big weekend with a game on Friday, women on Saturday. Hopefully, the men on Saturday. Wait a minute.
Saturday, Sunday.
So we're going Friday,
Friday,
Saturday, Sunday,
Saturday.
Monday. So we
Yeah.
got 4 days in a row starting on Friday. And I'm happy to report that I've taken Thursday and Friday off. I've learned from my mistakes. I tried to have one eye on my workload and one eye on the tournament, and I've just given up. I'm too much of a basketball fan to sit. I'm going to sit in front of my couch. I'm going to relax and probably talk with U-Haul and various insurance agents to try to get my car repaired from this weekend. Anything that I missed. Brent, by the way, happy birthday, my friend. I
Happy
think it
birthday,
ends
bro.
with a 0. Doesn't it end with a 0?
Is it 0? Did you say 42?
Oh, is it 2?
Yeah, I think you said 42.
Yeah, just call
I
it
don't know.
out just call it his
maybe
age, why don't you?
Maybe I'm trying to make him, closer to me in age, so I'll feel so old, so old. But yeah, happy birthday, bro. I hope you're having a good time and all things is well down in Kansas City.
That's right. Watch out for those U-Haul guys. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking NCAA basketball. This is just a wonderful time of year. Really looking forward to this weekend. And again, thank you to our sponsors. Without them, this would not be possible. So title sponsor, obviously, Revelton Distilling Company, as well as Iowa Beef Steakhouse, Andrew Downs and the AKC marketing team, as well as Styled by JJ Boutique. And if you haven't listened to Tracking the Storm, they've had a couple of Cyclone guests on that would be intriguing, particularly the one that I just listened to with Jeff Hornacek, former Cyclone great. It was interesting to hear some of his. Yeah, he's got great stories to tell about his time in Ames and being a pro athlete. And then the most recent episode had Danny Harris, who was, I totally forgot he played football as well, but he was a great track athlete and Olympian. Beat Edwin Moses for the first time and broke that streak that Edwin Moses have. So if you've not been following Tracking the Storm, I would certainly suggest that you listen in. We've got a couple of days before the tournament starts, although I think the Dayton games start on Tuesday, some of those playing games. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. And again, thank you to We Will Pizza for sponsoring our We Will Performer of the Week. We'll see you next time. Go Cyclones.
Go Cyclones.
When the team takes flight, Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. There's a cyclone brewing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Hilton's rocking.